all of us, even you, know that when you get anxious or afraid, either you or somebody will tremor. We've seen this all the time in life. Even in playful situations, if you get on a roller coaster and you're scared or nervous, you might tremor, or while you're on it, your legs will start to tremor. You'll get off and your body will be tremoring and everybody will laugh. Oh my God, look what's happening. So tremoring is so organic and natural to the human body. And we have those circumstances all the time in both playful situations and fearful situations. So I, like everybody else, was familiar with that. But where it sort of really presented itself most strongly to me was when I was living in the Middle East, and I was living in war in Beirut, Lebanon. Mm-hmm. And in that situation, we did two things. Every time there was a bombing or a shooting or something like that, everybody would duck. And it fascinated me how we all knew exactly how to do that. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't something we thought about. It had to be a primitive part of the brain that moved the nervous system in a split second. And it had some sort of anatomical connection where it knew how to pull the body into a fetal response, is what we call it, where you pull forward. We all know that. You could hear a car backfire and you'll do that. Okay, how do you know to do that? You're born genetically encoded with that, and it's neurological and anatomical. So that was the first pattern I saw, because I saw it a million times and I did it a million times. War just sort of punched me in the face with it, said, pay attention, look at this. The second one is that after a lot of these situations, or during them, we would be scared enough, because they were life or death threats, where we would start to tremor. But it fascinated me because after it was over, then the tremoring would stop. And I was fascinated because I didn't start it. Sometimes I didn't want it to start. And after the danger was over, it stopped by itself. So it started and stopped by itself. So that I put the two of those together. I thought, what is this and why do we tremor? But like I said, being in war forced me to look at it. I came back to the States. I worked with a neurosurgeon friend of mine. And I said, look, this is what I'm seeing, this pattern. How does it work? Why does it do that, et cetera? What's going on? So we researched that a bit. We read a number of articles and books on it. And this, what everybody knows now, is this is absolutely normal for the mammal kingdom. So when you see a dog in a thunderstorm, as an example, it's completely safe, but it doesn't know it's safe, and its body tremors, okay? Animals in the wild will do the same thing. They live with a potential life or death threat every day, but they don't get post-traumatic stress disorder because after they have been attacked by a lion, as an example, but they run away and they're safe, they'll go to the watering hole and they'll tremor all over their bodies. You can watch this when a horse falls, when it's galloping. When it stands up, the whole body starts to tremor. So that's a mammal mechanism. And so that's our genetic inheritance as well, because we're part mammalian. And so we actually do that if we allow ourselves to do it. The problem is we have an ego that stops that from happening. But the whole point is how it started was I was forced into circumstances where my body was doing things all by itself, and I didn't understand why it was doing it. And so then I simply researched it. Now, that's the very origins of TRE. And so what happened is that I still was living in countries in the Middle East. And so I had to figure out, how do I take what I learned and make it applicable to a large population of people without needing therapists to do this. Since the human body does this by itself, that was my cue to say, well, if the body pulls together the fetal position, what about if we extend the body? That's where the exercise comes in, with the knees open. Excuse me. And the pelvis up. So you're actually arching the body. It's the very opposite of the fetal response. And so what happens when you arch it? You're basically stretching out those muscles and fascia patterns that contracted. And you're also informing the body, you're safe. Now we're safe. Everything's exposed, I'm available. Then when you set the pelvis down and slowly close the knees, the tremors activate naturally, okay? So all I did was put like those puzzle pieces together. It took about 5 years to sort of put it all together. And then the conclusion was, which is a new video I just posted today, was in Sudan. So I went to Sudan when there was war between the North and the South, and I was working in the South a great deal. And so I had to teach this. My Arabic was only about 8th grade education because I studied it in university. I was pretty fluent, but not fluent enough to really professionally present like this, and certainly not to do psychology or counseling. And it wasn't appropriate anyways. That's sort of a Western consciousness, doesn't fit much in other countries. And so I had to figure out, how do I get a group of 1,000 people to get access to their bodies so they can reduce stress, which is what the tremor mechanism does, and they can help facilitate it amongst themselves without needing a professional therapist, because I was only there for 3 years. I wasn't going to be there forever. And so that's when I sort of really started to develop the exercise routine, getting greater clarity around this, and then learning how to teach this in a very simple way, like 8th grade education, to this population so that they can sustain this after I leave. And that's sort of the short story of TRE.
Wow. And we're going to link people to your YouTube channel so they can go and watch all of your videos, which I will encourage everybody to do. And my brain is going crazy.